Hello. Welcome back to another very beautiful, very special chapter of The Stars Above. Quite a adventurous day today. Yesterday I was reading a chapter over yonder, just over yonder, and I could sense a bobcat praying. He was praying from this tree, and I sensed him. And as you saw in the recording, I got a little spooked. I got a tad bit spooked, but I was wearing my snazzy shoes, and so I knew that worst case scenario, I could outrun him. But I was not prepared to confront him. I could outrun him, but I could not confront him, which just so happens to be a very serious theme in this story. Icarus tends to run from his fears. He tends to run from his problems. He tends to run from his pain instead of confronting them. But as you will see, Icarus, as we progress forward, he learns how to confront his fears. He learns how to confront his pains. But yesterday, I was caught entirely off guard by the bobcat preying on me from this tree. And so I got a little spooked, and I did not confront him. I fled. I fled in my snazzy dress shoes. But today I am confronting. Yesterday I needed to confirm that I was in fact stalked by the bobcat. And so I went into Monument Rock, the Ch.4 formation behind me, and I did a little exploration. And the bobcat pounced. He pounced from his cave at me, and he went, rawr, rawr. I don't speak bobcat, so I'm not very good at saying what he said. Rawr, something along those lines. He pounced and he roared at me. He roared, and his claws came out and he showed me his teeth, and it was very intimidating. But I had to confirm. I needed to confirm that he was in fact stalking me. So he is there. And that brings me to today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is asserting dominance in the wild. The bobcat, he did not attack, but he prayed. And he sensed that I sensed him. Animals in the wild can sense fear, they smell it. And the bobcat is an apex predator here on these lands. So he could sense my slight fear. But today I am asserting dominance. I am letting him know that he cannot prey on me. He cannot prey on me from this tree. And although he pounced yesterday, our little Mexican standoff, we did not quarrel. We did not quarrel. I backed off. I was invading his space. I was invading his territory, so I backed off. But the score is uneven. The score is 1-0 because he preyed on me, he pounced on me, and now I must even the score. I must assert my dominance in his little praying stalking tree. I will not be stalked or preyed upon by the bobcat. So as you can see, I'm much more prepared today. I have my little boots on. I am wearing this outfit because there is no human that has struck more fear in the hearts of the animal kingdom than Tarzan. Tarzan is quite literally the king of the jungle. So I am wearing my leopard. The bobcat will likely think that I killed a leopard and skinned him alive for this. It's actually just a shawl. I found it at Goodwill. But I know that the bobcat is not going to be able to know the difference. The bobcat is not going to say to himself, that human found that shawl at Goodwill. No, the bobcat is going to see my knife and he is going to say he skinned a leopard alive, and he is draping it over his body to assert dominance like Tarzan. I don't want to have to use the knife. I'm a man of peace. I have not always been a man of peace, but I now consider myself a man of peace. And while I've never tangoed with a bobcat, I have also never been one to turn down a good brawl. And if he wants to scrap, I am ready to fucking scrap. I am more than ready. I wore these shorts because I wanted him to see how muscular my legs were. These are my muscle shorts. And I'm wearing my leopard. But anyway, back to the knife. I don't want to have to use the knife. I would like this to be a fair fight. Mano y mano. But if he shows his teeth at me, or if he puts out, what's the opposite of retract? If he does the opposite of retract his claws at me, I pull the knife. I do not want to have to use it, but you never know. Tarzan, I don't think Tarzan used knives. Maybe he did. He was just so strong. He squeezed the animals. He broke their back, squeezing them. Tarzan would wrap his gorilla-trained arms around their body. He would squeeze them so tight he would break their back. And if I have to break the bobcat's back, I will, but I do not want to. I'm a man of peace. What I will more than likely do is lasso him with this chain. I will take the chain, I will lasso him, I will hog tie him like a goddamn cowboy at the rodeo. I will hog tie the shit out of him. He will not be able to do anything. And then I will tell him, no, you stop. You stop, bobcat. What you did the other day, preying on me, not gonna fly. Not on my watch, buddy. There's a new apex predator out here. But like I said, I don't want it to have to get to that. I don't want to brawl. I don't wish to tango with the bobcat. I don't wish to scrap. I don't want to take him behind the woodshed. I don't want to clean his clock. What I want to do is make peace. I want to commune. I want to commune with the wildlife here. But in the animal kingdom, you must assert dominance. So before I commune, before I make peace, before I break bread, if you will, with the bobcat, I must assert dominance. So that's what I'm here doing in the tree, in the stalking tree, in the prey tree. I'm asserting my dominance. And afterwards, after I assert my dominance, I will attempt to make peace. Because right now I am sure he is afraid. Right now he is thinking Tarzan is down there with his skinned alive leopard print shawl that he did not get at Goodwill. He has a chain, he's gonna hog tie me. He has a knife. Look at his muscular legs. His legs are so muscular, his hair is so lush like Tarzan. It's probably really well conditioned. That's what he is thinking. And that's why I know that even if I am so focused on reading, even if I am so bewildered by the story, so enticed by the magic, I know that I will not be attacked because I have asserted dominance. And I am showing no fear. I am not running from my fear. I am confronting my fear. We must confront, not run. So anyway, yeah, that's today's sponsor, asserting dominance. Let's go ahead and get into the chapter. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm flexing. I will try to stay flexed throughout the story or throughout the chapter so that he knows that I'm in a flexed position, which means I'm ready to strike. It's really hard to stay flexed. I'm not going to stay flexed, but he knows. Chapter 4, Woodland Woman. I was sweating bullets upon arrival for work on Wednesday, having walked 2 miles under the blazing sun to get there, ready to impress in a black suede vest. The week's schedule was posted in the break room. There she was, her name right above mine. The second it was read, that dorky voice spoke aloud again. "Hello," she said. I turned to find her smiling, semi-confused yet equally excited. There'd never been a more adorable geek to grace the sight of sore eyes. "Hello, Celine," I said. "Do believe I'm lost. Can you help me?" "What are you doing here?" she asked, laughing. "Oh, I work here. Am kind of a big deal, see? Headhunted by corporate." We stood quiet for a few moments which felt endless, as if having waited centuries to appreciate mere seconds. Awkward glances were shared as smiles grew too wide for our faces to contain. Perhaps we'd been unsure whether to start selling clothes or blow the joint like Bonnie and Clyde, ready to be shot down in cold blood after a hot pursuit at each other's side. But being caught between a hail of gunfire wasn't the way to start a healthy relationship of any sort. So, in breaking the silence, I blurted, "Guess we should get to work, huh?" I was scheduled to train with that day's shift leader. She was standing on a raised platform near the dressing rooms, like a goddess upon the pedestals of Olympus. She'd lock into my eyes upon approach and halt me dead in my tracks. It felt of fantasy, like walking through a vast forest blanketed in snow, when out of the tree line pranced a mythical stag to freeze time, one whose illuminated antlers depicted celestial patterns. Having turned its head ever slowly to meet me and say without speaking, "It's about time you arrived. Sure took long enough." She measured me up, as if to be certain it was really me, someone she'd always known. Half of her face was painted ceremoniously, like an indigenous tribeswoman in what looked like red clay and charcoal. Velvety brown hair with hints of crimson and garnet was pulled back in laced braids. Auburn eyes rest behind the tired lids of an old and sorrowful soul yearning for peace. Her creeping smile was not of ecstasy, but an expressive wisdom and inexplicable sense of faith. Free-flowing silk garments of earthbound tone hung in layers from head to toe like a fairy tale's pixie. She had a luminous glow only seen in spirits, as if stuck with hesitation somewhere between divinity and mortality. Surely, an angel who'd severed her own wings, fell from the heavens, and chose to remain grounded here on our world, if for no other reason than to test the will of men such as myself. The kind of gal who spent winters burrowed in the trunk of a megalithic redwood from an archaic era, whittling little animal figurines. Then, when spring rolled around, spent time besides burning candles in dim-lit corners of a cave, brewing potions under a blood moon. I could only assume that pushing costumes to surface dwellers was simply her day job, and that by night she was a clairvoyant crystal gazer or palmist for a traveling circus, one uninterested in charming the helpless or selling snake oil, having been the real McCoy. Considering I'd never encountered an ethereal druid from a Celtic realm out in the wild, I wasn't sure how to advance appropriately. There were no offerings of gold, frankincense, or myrrh, having carried only my humility, which turned out being far more than enough. Edging nearer, I reached out to introduce myself. "Hi there, I'm Icarus," I said. "Icarus McHale." Gently, she took my hand in hers. It was warm, pulling me from the harrowing vast she'd recognized. "Icarus McHale," she replied, her eyes sharpening as she emphasized McHale. "I'm Thea. It's so very nice to meet you." Her heartfelt tone cut like a hot iron blade. As if shattering a protective shell, I was engulfed by a certain purity of otherworldly affection. A strong sense of inertia which festered in the gut crawled up my spine as electric shockwaves fired through my crown. In the simple calling of a name, Thea carried me to a realm of dreams she'd woven into my reality. How strange it felt to hear again, that voice of familiarity. But why? Much like with Celine, it was as if I'd known her my entire life, that in some way, shape, or form, she'd been at my side, guiding me through each and every struggle. At first glance, she didn't talk, look, or seem like a mother, yet something about her made me feel safe, looked out for, and understood. Something of which only my own mother was ever capable of. Thea went over simpler procedures for the job in an unenthusiastic fashion, but the look she gave spoke of more pressing matters at hand. She could tell I wasn't much interested in the mundane aspects of what was expected, having known right off the bat by the way I looked at Celine that I wasn't there for the pathetic pay of $9 an hour. She spoke in a suave, charismatic nature with gesturing hands. Basically, she said, shooting the breeze, all you gotta know is, the folk that come through here don't know a damn thing about dressing themselves. So, you kinda just gotta do it for 'em. Take that guy over there, Joe Schmo, walking around with his arms crossed and nose to the air like his shit don't stink. His wife's looking for an outfit to wear to a disco party, but he's trailing behind, laughing at her like he's too cool for school. I'd hate to break it to you, pal, but you're a little too short to be a stormtrooper. That's where we come in. We get a guy like that interested in things he don't even know he's keen on. I could fit that fella in a rainbow-colored muumuu dress, top hat, platform boots, and convince him he loves it, like it was always his groove. You know, they run a real tight ship here. We don't get lunch or even a smoke break, and don't even think about sitting down. If you're eating, you gotta do it standing up. And while you're going about standing up, don't ever be caught standing around. If you don't have anything to do or a customer to talk to, just pretend like you're organizing a rack. You know, I'm sure they'll go a lot easier on you. We've been needing someone with muscle around here. That, and you're real kind on the eyes, babe. She looked at me like I was brutally handsome, and she was terminally pretty, in the heart of a hot, hot city. Thea was a backcountry, spunk-driven woodland woman from Colorado. While in her mid-40s, the tone of conviction she carried spoke well beyond those years. In between random work-related spouts, she'd talk about her obsession with lost languages, fascinating dialects, prospecting precious stones, and the studying of numerical patterns. It felt she belonged to an older world, one perished to the harsh cruelties of time. She was light on her feet, zooming like a fox out in the sticks. There was balance and fluidity to her which embodied the likes of harmony and chaos, creation and destruction, clarity and mayhem, an unprecedented elegance which perplexed me in all the most wonderful ways. Every graceful step was a dance, breath a song, word a poem, and look a work of art. It was evident she hadn't been a woman among the undistinguished, but an oracle torn between the fabrics of this reality and the metaphysical, foretelling a story with each whimsical stride made. If the moon itself could weep, she'd be the one to catch her tears as they fell. It was a slow day in the shop, so once Thea set me loose, it was more play than work alongside Celine. We ran around like two kids on a schoolyard, having been pent up in class for far too long. Every time we were apart, she'd glance in my direction from 20 yards out, where I'd be caught staring into her eyes from behind stacked hats, like a lion preying in tall grass. But as often as she'd spot me, I'd catch her doing the same, as if tethered to one another through an inescapable fixation. In passing, while pretending it wasn't intentional, I'd hip-check her into the tube dresses, or she'd send me flying through a rack of trench coats. We'd often come to a good old Mexican standoff at each end of an aisle, inching close with hands at our hips, freezing 10 paces between, our knuckles fidgeting for the other to make a move, or until the swamp cooler blew a tumbleweed across our path. I was fast, but she had the quickest draw of any finger pistol this side the Mississippi. I'd drop to the floor, dead and gone. All in great fun. It was reminiscent of an innocent childhood never experienced, one that was stripped of me. Yet all that time spent growing through despair had opened a door which allowed these simplistic moments shared with Celine to feel as though I'd never grown up at all. She'd turned back the clock to a time and place we were always meant to be with one another, having no other care in the world than to kick sand in the other's eyes and play it off as an accident, just because we like them. I could see that child at her selfless side, the one still playing, dreaming, and believing, reaching out to bring me home. All the while, Thea stood upon her raised platform as the sentinel of that wonder emporium, watching, laughing, and appreciating the playfulness before her, just as a mother would. "You know what, Celine?" I said. "You look like a bird running around here with your wings flapping like a loon." "No, you look like a bird," she'd reply with an appalled glare. From that point on, we'd call each other Bird, until I later became Irk, for I'd tend to annoy her to no end. To keep from confusing dialogue, I'll remain Irk. "It's funny you should call me Bird," she said. "My middle name is Hawk." I paused in disbelief, then began laughing. "You're kidding me right now," I said. "So, your name translates to Moonhawk?" "Yeah? Why?" she asked. "You got a problem, tough guy?" "Serendipitous is all." I rolled up my right arm's sleeve, revealing the tattoo of a girl dancing within the body of a hawk, one whose wings held a crescent moon. Quite Literally a moonhawk. As stated before, when being starved of positive affirmations, one tends to recognize those silver linings and good omens. If having believed in coincidence, I'd have already died a nihilist, this sign was synchronicity dick-slapping me across the face with 9 inches of mindfulness. Celine's eyes lit up as a smile stretched ear to ear. "No fucking way," she said. "We've got to show Thea." I watched the two of them speak in excitement, and, as I did, there was something bubbling about inside that I couldn't quite put my finger on. They looked eerily similar to one another, shared body language, and even sounded the same, yet had no blood relation. They were over 20 years apart, but couldn't have seemed closer. While who they may have been to each other at the time remained a mystery to me, their connection was evident. Without fault, they complemented each other's sense of self, and I couldn't help but feel the dynamic of their relationship being anything other than that of a mother and her daughter. Seeing them together, the smiles shared and their love carried, had never left me more humbled, nor so certain of something more, something great. Thea turned with a look as if she'd been trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle that was already solved. "Icarus, if I may," she said, "why did you choose Reno?" I paused for a moment, finally feeling that I could give an honest response to that question, or at least what I tried wholeheartedly to believe at the time was an honest reason. "Well," I replied, "back in January my mother passed, leaving my younger brother, Evan, and I to watch over our 8-year-old kid brothers, Stephen and Aiden, as they have no father. We've never had much, so I came out here in search of a place we could finally call home." When I said that, it wasn't with ill intent or an excuse to lie, nor to seem there was an honorable cause. At the time, it was believed to be true, just as it was when expressed to Evan before leaving California, right after admitting to him that I feared taking my life if I didn't leave. But that didn't change the fact that my truth was only a fear unprepared to face. What should I have told Celine and Thea in those moments instead? That I was a coward? That I could no longer look myself in the mirror without being reminded of my insecure shortcomings as a man too afraid to take responsibility? Responsibilities of which I was too ashamed to admit were never asked for, nor wanted to begin with? That I could no longer remain in that house, staring at my mother's closed door and the devastating reminder that she'd never step back through it? That I could no longer spend nights curled in the hallway with a child uncontrollably weeping in my arms, kicking and screaming, "Why? Why isn't Mom coming home? I hate you. Let go of me. It's all your fault." Only for me to rock back and forth as I clenched them tighter, whispering empty promises through my own tears. "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I'm here," while making any miserable attempt to assure myself that something entirely out of my control, her death, hadn't been my fault, nor the resent being carried over her head. I'd wished to have been a stronger man, one able to enough... I'd wished to have been a stronger man, one able enough to express those truths. But honesty for others means absolutely nothing without honesty towards oneself. Would saying any of that done me any good, other than make me feel less than what was already succumbed to? I needed to be held, to be loved, to be shown that same comfort I knew I'd failed to deliver. But how could I not fail? That was nurturing never felt for myself. Up until that point, standing before those two beautiful souls, I believed to be nothing more than a sad and broken man, left to fend like a child lost in a world he could never understand. However, at their grace I stood before. I'd soon become much, much more. I peered over to Celine. Something about what I'd said took her aback. She felt quiet, and a certain sorrow sunk within her eyes, one I'd only recently become familiar with. "That's very noble of you," Thea said. I know she wasn't trying to see through some self-righteous facade, but the tone in her voice and look in her eyes were that of another understanding. Thea knew what couldn't be said, that I was running from something, searching for something. She could feel this within me, for she was living through the same. I think in those moments that a part of her knew I'd found it, that it had found us. A feeling unknown, quick to have grown. Celine and Thea would open the floodgates to my past and become the catalyst needed in rediscovering who I was, the pain I buried, and all beliefs left forsaken. It was an undying love which would finally set the boy behind the man free at long last. That one part always gets me. But as you can see, Icarus is reflecting in ways. He understands that something was being run from. He understands that he needs to confront that. But it is still creeping. It is still creeping. He must process. And processing is a very difficult thing when you have run for the entirety of your life. But perhaps these two most beautiful souls, Celine and Thea, will help him to process what he has run from. Perhaps they will help him to confront. Even if it is in difficult ways, sad ways, hopeless ways, he must venture. He must press on. He must confront his fears, those pains that he has so desperately run from. We will see. We will see as the story progresses what happens. I don't wish to give any spoilers. This is not a spoiler alert sponsor. This sponsor is asserting dominance in the wild. And as you can see, I did not hesitate. I did not turn and look to see if perhaps the bobcat was preying, because I knew that he was not. I knew that he was not because I am here asserting dominance. There is no fear for him to smell. There is no fear for him to sense. What he sees is Tarzan, king of the jungle, with his skinned-alive leopard sash and muscle shorts and chain and skinning knife and lush conditioned hair. That's what he sees. So he's not going to come down here and mess with me. But now that I've asserted dominance, it is time to make peace. It is time to commune. Because you see, now we are tied. Now we are tied 1-1. And now that we are tied 1-1, it is time to break bread. It is time to break bread and make peace and commune with the wildlife. So that is what I'm going to work on next. And then at some point, I will read another chapter. So, thank you so much for joining me on this adventurous day where we ventured forth into the tree, into the stalking tree. I very much appreciate you joining me. Come on back next time for another most beautiful, magical chapter of The Stars Above.